the body can take so much until it says, no, I'm giving you the middle finger and you're not going to be able to do anything.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions in Iowa. So if you're in Iowa and looking for therapy or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt. I am our Vice President in charge of the Behavioral Health Department. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So our mission is that we are a podcast designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Our guest today is the trauma-informed PT, the trauma-informed personal trainer. You probably see her on Instagram. You can go to her main website. But we've got Gabi Varga here with us today. I'm really excited about this one, Chrissa, because there is such a push in our field, in the mental health field, towards that mind-body connection and those places where trauma really impacts our physical health and vice versa. And so I'm so excited to hear from Gabi today. So Gabi is a trauma-informed personal trainer. She has been a trauma-informed personal trainer for 2 years, but she's been a personal trainer for 20 years. So lots and lots of background and information about personal training, but also all of this information and context where that trauma piece comes in to our wellness as a whole. So welcome, Gabi. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, ladies. It's nice to be here.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about what is trauma-informed personal training. How is that different from personal training at the YMCA?
It's funny that you say, because I used to work at the YMCA in Montreal. So
I didn't know that.
And actually, it's really fun. YMCA is fun. So what the main difference is that we put trauma into consideration when a client comes through the door, online door or physical door, and we make sure that we don't add more trauma to their trauma pile, as I like to say it. Yeah, and there's different approaches to fitness, such as no pain, no gain, push through. I just put that into bed and let it go completely. And I make sure that my clients feel heard, seen, and I offer them a safe space. And, as both of you know, nervous system regulation is very, very important when it comes to healing. And I co-regulate with my clients. I make sure that I pay attention to their body language. Even though they may say, I can do this exercise, the body says otherwise. And I listen to the body, not to their words.
Can you kind of explain and go into what the trauma-informed means, for people who have no idea what that part means?
Yeah, absolutely. So I offer my clients all autonomy, safe space, and it's an extra layer. And it's really hard to pinpoint and put it into a short sentence. But when the clients come through the door, they understand that they have a say, they have a choice, a freedom or choice of freedom. So it's not about me telling them you got to do this. It's they are in the driver's seat and they have full autonomy while I'm there to serve them. It's not all the way around. Yeah. So it's all the trauma-informed principles that we have heard about before. It's, autonomy, freedom of choice, and safe space, nervous system regulation, and everything that we've known in counseling or and therapy. I bring that into the fitness space and create a safe space for my clients.
Absolutely. I love that. One of the biggest barriers for people doing counseling is that it can be very traumatizing to go and talk about our trauma. It can be re-traumatizing or trauma affirming when we talk about our trauma to a stranger, and especially a stranger in a clinical type of setting. And I feel that working with a personal trainer, right? Going into a gym in general, right? And working with a personal trainer or anybody surrounding personal wellness, even doctors, right? So anybody, we're having that same barrier there that also applies for counseling. And it's why in counseling, we do the things that we do. We build rapport, we give autonomy, we give choice, we give control. We make sure that it is a safe place to do that mental work. And what you're describing is exactly that, but in the physical fitness world. And I will say to get kind of into nitty gritty, right? So for me, if I think about going to a gym, there's a lot that comes up with that, right? There are a lot of feelings that come up with even just walking into a gym, meeting with a personal trainer. There are a lot of feelings that are going to come up and a lot of unsafe feelings that are going to come up to me that need to be just actively addressed and actively combated. And it sounds like the work that you're doing is exactly that. You're taking that active approach from the very, very start to say, okay, yeah, these are going to be natural challenges. There are going to be these barriers to coming in, and I'm going to proactively do these things so that this can be a safe place for you to work on your physical fitness. What are some of those I know for me, if I think about going into a gym, I'm comparing my body to other people's. I am thinking about, gosh, I'm so slow on this treadmill, right? And the person next to me is like running 20 miles, right? And so there is just, even with walking into the gym, these are some barriers that I think I cannot be alone in having these feelings. What are some of those other barriers that people experience when they're actively wanting to work on their physical fitness?
The barriers. And thank you, Julie, for saying all these things, because a lot of people are not aware of these barriers that you already mentioned. And it breaks my heart because I'm coming from a very different place that I just loved it. I used to love the gym and I've gone through trauma and then it changed. But technically, one barrier that I've seen in my clients that they've been traumatized by personal trainers before, that they've been shamed for being this way or that way, and I don't even want to name what they were called. And that's the place for sure. This is a really good question because I have to think about the answer. I gotta be honest. And yeah, so the personal trainer, earlier experiences, or a client of mine who grew up in a home where they had to be competitive. It was expected of them to be competitive, and they recognize that they need something else, something safer, something calming that's safe for the nervous system. And the barrier, the gym itself, as you mentioned, that we might have to remove that barrier completely and go into the online space or into their homes, or a gym that's not a commercial gym per se. These are the things that I can think of. I'm sure there are many more, but earlier traumas, that's the biggest thing. But if we are able to address it, that's half of the win for sure, because a lot of people are not aware of the barriers they just feel the bodily sensation that I don't want to do this, but I know I'm told to do this, even though because society tells us that we have to look a certain way, and I move away from that completely.
That's really cool that you mentioned like removing the gym barrier of it and like going to online. I really like that. What are some other, like, do people ever reach out to you and want to start training and like are scared to reach out to you and scared to meet with you in person? Or like, how does that really work with like new clients reaching out to you?
Yes, I have in-person and online clients. I go to a gym um, who feels safe to do that, and some people I go to their homes. But sorry, Chrissa, ask the question again. I need to hear
Like,
it one more
yeah,
time.
like for new clients reaching out to you to get started, do you ever have that like hesitance where they're like, even though you are trauma informed, they are nervous to kind of even meet with you to begin with?
Absolutely. That's a very straight and and simple answer. Yeah, a lot of people, I would say 80-90% of the people have that scarcity, that like they, and it's really hard for me because I'm not here to convince them. They need to know that they are ready to take this on, and I offer safe space. And I like to think I'm pretty approachable, but it's just people's experiences. I I may seem intimidating for some, and because of their earlier traumas or experiences. But long story short, a lot of people feel nervous about reaching out, and the back and forth. Let's say on Instagram, there's I feel so much when it comes to people, when it comes to energy. And I feel when it's the hesitance is there. And what my role in that space is to make them feel heard, seen, and validated. Because once validation is present, they feel safe and they know that they can express themselves. And it's the rapport that Julie mentioned earlier is being built.
Absolutely. You brought up trauma changing the way that you felt about the gym at one point. You said you loved the gym naturally, and then you had an experience that changed that for you. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. So after leaving, as a fitness trainer, I started with group fitness, and I loved being loud and yelling and being the center of the attention. And when my ex-husband and I separated in 2016, I went down the rabbit hole of dating and wanted to look awesome, and I started training really, really hard. However, I had a lot of body mechanical issues that couldn't be detected to begin with because my form was pretty decent, pretty good. But the emotional trauma that came with dating, because I'm a natural people pleaser, so I wanted to be loved, I wanted to be liked, I wanted to be accepted. So I was looking for something that I couldn't get in my former marriage. And that emotional charge uh, was never released in my body. The trauma loop kept playing, and flight, fight, freeze, fawn, those trauma responses got stuck in my body. And when my natural tendency is freeze, and freeze causes immobilization in the body. So, and affects the fascia and the joints and everything. And when I was lifting heavy weights, I was able to do 7 chin-ups just by myself without any help. But because of my body mechanical challenges that I was born and developed over time, also at the same time, my fascia wasn't working properly. And all this great mix of so this whole pile of poop that my body absorbed, I it didn't help my fitness journey. So everything, I was lifting heavy, but my body wasn't accommodating to that. So a lot of immobilization started to happen. And the emotional trauma that I was going through, everything made me become so tense. My whole body, my muscles became so tense over the years of heavy training. And now I've been working through that. And I had no idea that trauma leaves an imprint on the body. I didn't know the word trauma in a way that I know now. And yeah, that was my big journey. That's been my big journey. And slowly I started to recognize that, okay, so something isn't right. Like my body doesn't move the way it used to. My body, I cannot activate my muscles. My body is tight all the time. I'm telling my clients to do something that I cannot do. I felt like I was going through this, like I'm a facade, I'm fake. I cannot offer my clients advice or teaching them what I cannot do myself. So the gym became a very unsafe environment, circling back to your question, finally. So the gym became a very unsafe environment. And where I used to work, it was very competitive. That didn't help either. So at that time, I couldn't distinguish between anxiety and excitement in my body because I never learned to name my emotions. So I thought it was excitement, but in reality, it was anxiety, and anxiety even adds another layer to our trauma. So slowly, I started working through things. I found somatic therapy, and where I didn't have to talk about my trauma in a sense that you mentioned, Julie, earlier, that talking about our trauma can be re-traumatizing. So finally, I found an avenue that helped me to start working through my emotional charges, my nervous system dysregulation, and so on. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about like fight, flight, freeze, and how when you like were freezing, it was like affecting how your body moved. Do all of them affect your body, like whether it's fight, flight, or freeze in the same way, or are there different ways that those different escape things will affect your body?
Very good question, Chrissa. Thank you so much. So flight, fight, those are the times when the muscles are ready to take action. So it mobilizes the body. So it's the hip flexors get tight, you're ready to run away or fight back. So it's a very different feeling in the body, and it leaves a very different imprint on the body and the muscles. While freeze is when the body immobilizes, because the brake is on and the gas. So when the gas pedal, we have our foot on the gas pedal and the brake at the same time, and we are pressing onto both at the same time. So the body doesn't know what to do, so it shuts down. So that causes immobilization. So it's very different. But both at the end, both cause tension in the body, and the extra charge, if we don't know how to release it, it gets trapped in the body, and it can cause chronic pain or any kind of illness, really.
I love that. And when we think about, what is our tendency, and I love that you use the term tendency, because it doesn't mean that that's what we actively choose to do. It is what our body automatically, before the thought has even registered in our brain, it's what our body just will automatically do. And sometimes the purest ways to think about, well, what is my tendency, is to think about when we were young children and what did we do. And so I've got a 7-year-old right now. And when my 7-year-old is told no or gets overwhelmed, right, she'll ball up her fists very, very tight. Okay. And you can see her body tightening. Okay. And for me, when I see that, and when I started to see that, and she was like 2 when she started to do that, she would ball up her fist very tight. And I thought, okay, her body is ready to either run or her body is ready to fight, right? And so her adrenaline is pumping. Her muscles are ready to go. And so when we saw that, we started to say, okay, what does she need in order to release that physical sensation, that physical change that's happening in her body, because she can't have a candy cane at 7 o'clock in the morning. Right? So if I say like, no, you can have that after school, right? And she's tired or she's overwhelmed, right? And so she tightens up. If she will go do jumping jacks, or if she will go jump on a pillow, or if she will go do something else physical, where if she's using her body in the same way that she would to run away from the threat, then she's able to release the chemicals that are in her body, release the tension that's building up in her body, utilize it. Her body's like, oh, great, you ran, right? Like, oh, great, you fought against that tiger that was chasing you. Okay, now we can relax. Now we can come back to balance in the body. But if you've got a child who, or if you as a child were a child that would go and hide, right? If you were the child that went and ran away to under the dining room table, right? Then you know that your response is likely freeze. And so when we know that about ourselves, we can go, okay, I need to ride this out. This body change that's happening right now, before I even thought about it, that told me go hide under the dining room table or go run away to under the dining room table. We can say, okay, I'm going to let my body do that. So like I need to take a nap, like I need to do something. I need to watch 20 minutes of Bluey, because I have to do something that allows my body to not have the pressure to do something other than freeze in that moment, so that I can ride through that response that my body is having in a way that my body says, oh, okay, great. Check that out. I don't have to continue to freeze for the rest of the day or week or month over this situation that was a threat to us. And fawning is the same thing. We see children all the time, right, that do fawning, and a lot of times their trauma response, or their response to a traumatic situation, is not uh, acknowledged. Oh, so many times that's like, they're doing great, right? They're so helpful at the funeral. They're still doing great in school, right? So what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. They're doing fantastic. Because fawning, getting good grades in school, right? Or throwing ourselves into competitive dance or competitive figure skater, whatever the thing is that's the expectation. Workaholism is a form of fawning. So if we find that, oh, that's my tendency, I feel more secure if I do that, then we need to allow ourselves to do that, but we need to allow ourselves to do it in a way that also fits with our values as a person. And so we can use that and say, I'm going to be helpful to somebody else. Right? Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be the person I'm afraid of, right? If I'm afraid to have a hard conversation with somebody, I don't need to be helpful to that person. If really what I need to do is set a boundary with that person. But I can utilize what my body is telling me to do by being helpful to somebody else. I'm going to take a break in this so that I can feel this fawning energy, and I'm going to unload the dishwasher so that my family has clean dishes this evening, right? I'm going to go take a walk, and I'm going to smile at people when I see them, right? So we can utilize that energy. We can supplement that into these other places, so that our body goes, okay, great, we did it. We survived, right? It worked. Even though we might not be doing exactly what our body is telling us. Like, you need to go make up with that, but you need to go apologize to that person, right? You need to change yourself in order to please that person. That's not what we're doing. So I just think it's such an interesting discussion and such an interesting way that you utilize those responses that are natural in the physical fitness work. If somebody's a freeze and their natural tendency is to freeze, and they're already stressed or in a stressed state by the idea of walking a mile on a treadmill, right? Like you hear that and you go, okay, I'm stressed now. I'm going into freeze. Well, being in freeze makes it real hard to walk a mile on the treadmill. So I just think it's so cool what you're doing and how you're utilizing these. What are some other, or are there other examples of this and how it comes out in your fitness work?
I love, Julie, how you summed up all four different trauma responses. And I absolutely love that now we understand, a lot of us understand that we have to complete the trauma cycle in order to come out of it. And it's beautiful. So there are many ways it come out. Clients, the people pleaser, the fawn response, like I'll do anything so just to please the trainer, because and all of a sudden it the whole dynamic changes. That okay, the trainer isn't there for the client is there for the trainer. And it's and I never let that happen, because I want my clients to feel safe. And what I haven't mentioned is to listen to their bodies. That and once they understand what's happening on a bodily level, once we connect the mind and the body, then they are able to listen. So I bridge that gap for them. But many ways. Let me think. Other examples. There's definitely one client was got shamed by their earlier trainer.
You've brought up shame several times, and I think it's so amazing that you acknowledge that with your clients, because not everybody knows what shame is. So many of us, we confuse shame with guilt, right? With embarrassment, with humiliation, and we get those things confused. And so, but the examples that you've provided, right? Shame that comes from a previous trainer, and if we are going to the gym for training, or if we are going to a counselor for counseling, and we've had a previous experience where we felt shame, where we felt like we were not enough, we were not good enough. And so often that comes from that desire to please, from that fawning experience, right? Of I want this therapist to like me. I want this therapist to understand me. I'll do whatever homework. And these are where we get into, I'm a good I'm a good client, right? I'm a good client for my because it's like, oh yeah, you want me to think about this thing? I did it every single day, right? Look at where's my gold star. Those kinds of thoughts that we have about personal trainers, and I want to get an A in personal training, right? I want to get an A in therapy. When you hear this kind of language, okay, you are being right. Anytime that something happens that reminds us of a previous experience, especially when it comes to shame, we're using that same lens from that previous experience. That's what trauma does to us. And so if we've had that experience previously of, okay, I wanted to please my personal trainer, and then my personal trainer gave me feedback that I felt said to me, you are not good enough. You are not a person who can be physically fit. You are not a person who can do hard things, as evidenced by you're not doing them. Right? And so sometimes other people say that to us. Very often, other people give us direct feedback, and we say it to ourselves based on what they said. And so when you acknowledge as this person's new trainer and you're coming at it from a trauma-informed approach, being able to say, you've had a traumatic experience. And I love the examples you give too of traumatic experiences, because dating as a traumatic experience isn't one that everybody would think about, but oh my gosh, is it one? Right? So I love that you say that, because it gives permission to anybody listening that no, it doesn't have to be a car accident. It doesn't have to be a physical attack. Anything that threatens our sense of self is traumatic for us. And so a dating situation where there's that constant threat of rejection, and that constant desire to like, oh, well, maybe if I changed this about myself, right? Or maybe if this was different about myself, this would work in this relationship, is very traumatizing. And then with what you described in the gym of going, okay, and at the same time, my body is not doing what I'm trying to tell my body to do in the gym, right? And so it can be so tempting to not accept our bodies for what they can and cannot do. And your story just tells me and inspires me about listening to our bodies. Find that person who will listen to our body and will encourage us to listen to our body, because so often with training situations with coaches, especially, right? If you tell your football coach, I'm tired, coach, I can't run that extra mile, right? You're not going to necessarily get a very supportive response, right? A lot of times, especially in competitive sports, it's you go do it anyway, you push through it anyway. And so in those environments, we're just taught your body is screaming at you, ignore it. Don't listen to it, ignore it. So I just love what you're saying about shame, because it's so important in our mental health, but also, as I'm learning from you, in our physical health as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Julie, for mentioning the competitive sport environment, because that's a very different story, right? Like I'm in awe how much those people can do, but it comes with a cost, which is usually injury. And it happens because we are not listening to our bodies. And that's what happened to me. I didn't listen. I stopped ignoring my body signals until my body was screaming at me that stop. So the body can take so much until it says, no, I'm giving you the middle finger and you're not going to be able to do anything. And it can come out as burnout, as as illnesses, or I can circle back to that. But I love that, finally giving the freedom of choice to clients, that you don't have to do the way that you're used to. And I have this example. I had this small group class, very simple movement session with ladies in person. I asked them, what if you how would it make you feel if you didn't have to do 100%? And women were they had a little bit of confusion on their face, because they didn't know what to do with the information. There's no data for that. And one lady said relief. They would feel relieved by not giving 100%. And that's what I focus on, that do your best, whatever your best is that day, but don't give 100%, because that's when we are pushing our window of tolerance. And if we are right up there, there's a very big chance that we can get hurt. And that's why I like to go back to the body mechanical curriculum that I also teach, because I really see that a lot of people, when come into my space, I see how trauma altered their body mechanics. That's why we see a lot of people being hunched over, especially these days, being on their phones. The shoulders are forward. And why do we use our phones? Because we want to escape reality. And I've seen this happen. This is a very interesting example. It happened at one of the gyms I work at. The trainer told their clients to do 20 burpees. By the way, I don't make my clients do burpees ever anymore. No. And so the trainer told the client that do 20 burpees or 30, I can't remember. And the client, I could tell on their body language that I don't want to do this. And I saw that how the dynamics changed between them. And the client said, I can't do it. My shoulder is fucked up. And the trainer, no, you're going to do it. And I was like, holy shit, am I seeing this? And what happened was the client did a couple, but she didn't want to do it. Not at all. And she ended up doing, I don't know, 15, 20, but she had no intention. And so the trainer went upstairs, went on their phone and started playing with their phone. The client did the same. And so because they didn't know what to do with the situation, they didn't want to confront each other. They didn't want to talk it through. They didn't have the same language anymore. The communication was completely cut off. So they went on their phone to soothe themselves. And if I was the trainer, I would have done it very different. Like I would have listened to the client. I would have made them feel safe. And okay, how can we modify it? Would that feel safe for you? Or we should just completely ditch it and not to worry about it, and to give that sense of relief to the client. So going back to the posture and the phone, these days we scroll because we want to escape reality. We want to soothe ourselves. And the phone is a very convenient thing to do it with. And numbing ourselves, just like, alcohol, smoking. And I've done all that, being like, I drank, I smoked while I being a personal trainer. And it was like, oh, wow, this is not good. So anyways, posture, the body mechanics change when the trauma response becomes present in the body. And that's what I also work with, making sure that slowly open up the body and release the muscle tension that comes with the body mechanical changes in the body. Yeah. That was like, I went through a lot of information.
That was good. Can you give some examples then of what you would do on online sessions versus in person and the difference between those two?
Very good question, Chrissa. Thank you. They look very similar. The only thing is I cannot touch them. And this is really hard because I love hands-on. But I developed an eye through online sessions that, okay, I cannot walk around them. So I have to be really good with my words, how to give a very, very informative session. They understand what to do. But actually, it's very, very similar. There's a couple of movements that I don't use in the online space because it's hard to explain. I have to show, I have to really be hands-on. And in the online space, people do it in their own homes. So I make sure we only need minimal equipment. You can see my foam roller in the background. So a couple of things that I use. I like to keep it simple. And if they have weights, once we get to weight training, we use that. But we always start with foam rolling and myofascial release that helps with tension. When I work with someone in the gym in person, we have more equipment to choose from. But at the end of the day, we always start with the basics, with the foundational work, and we don't need a lot of stuff with that, if that answers to your question.
That's great. It really opens up, it really minimizes that barrier of location,
Absolutely.
and of the gym in general, but being able to say, well, in Chrissa and I live in Iowa in the United States, right? So it's a more rural area. There aren't as many options for trainers. And so to be able to say, okay, this is something that I'm very interested in. This is a specific niche that I think is going to work for me. But oh no, she lives in Canada. Being able to do that online is so helpful. And honestly, I think it fits so well with your trauma informed approach because it's all about communication. And so, you having to, it's different teaching somebody how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich when you can show them, right? Or you can move their bread and all of that, but to have to say it verbally, it means that it takes that additional intentionality with the instruction and with the feedback that you're giving. So I think that's a great fit in terms of the trauma informed piece of it. And it allows for that confidentiality as well, because when you're in the gym, especially in a small town, everybody that's in there,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows. Hmm. Yeah, so it really takes away a lot of that. I think that's great. You mentioned the body mechanical curriculum that you teach. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I'm a corrective exercise specialist as well. And the reason why I chose it, because I had, as a trainer of 20 years, I understood a lot, but I started to see that I'm bumping into roadblocks. And through my own experience, I realized that trauma informed training is amazing, but I have to go back to the foundation. And if I cannot do weights. I cannot make my clients do strength workout if they already have a contracted muscle. That's just the way it is. And that's what, tension causes in the body, what's caused by trauma. So I did a bit of research. I talked to other trainers that, okay, what do you think about the corrective exercise specialist course? And they said, yeah, this is great. And I have a friend who's a trauma informed personal trainer and also has done the other course. So it made sense to find another avenue to combine the two and make my own method. Like I should get some. I should call it somehow, but it really helped me to create something very special because I knew that it didn't exist on the market in the fitness industry. And I see it all the time, especially in the gym, when I see clients with other trainers. Let's go back to my original example, that the hunched over position. What it does is the shoulders won't work the same way as they used to. Let's say if my shoulders are up here and I'm trying to do a overhead shoulder press with weight, it's not going to be efficient because the traps, the shoulders, everything will be loaded in a way that they are not supposed to. So the right muscle groups won't be working properly. So we cannot do weights. We have to make sure that the body mechanics, the shoulder blades gliding, sliding properly, the rest of the body is working as a unit together. If we don't do the foundational work, I can hurt people a lot more. And that's the biggest difference. That's why I chose to become a corrective exercise specialist, because I saw that if I don't do that for myself, I cannot help my client the best way possible.
I feel like as you're talking, I'm like trying to sit up straighter as you're talking about the hunched shoulders.
I love that.
Can you kind of go into what somatic therapy is? I know you mentioned you see a somatic therapist, and I have no idea what that is. So can you kind of go over like what that is and how you got into that?
Okay, so this is a very fun story. Thank you for asking, Chrissa. So when I started to recognize that, I went to a couple of psychologists, and I saw a particular one got so triggered by my stories. Like, the person wasn't regulated at all. I could dysregulate this person. I paid a lot of money. I'm like, this is not right. So I started doing some research online uh, back 2019, that how to mm, how to find the right therapist. I don't even know how to get to the right um, people, but I found Irene Leon, who's into somatics. And she explained that, okay, this is how you look for the right therapist. And she was the first one who talked about somatics, that, the trauma lives in the body. So I went down the YouTube rabbit hole, and it turned out Irene lives in Vancouver, which I didn't know for the longest time. And I live in Vancouver, so small world. But uh, thanks to her videos, I started to understand that, okay, I need this specific modality to heal my body, and soma means body. So we are not talking about our trauma, our traumatizing experiences. We work it through the body, so so my therapist sits with me, holds safe space for me, just like what I do with my clients, and validates my feelings and co-regulates with me. And once we built rapport and the nervous system started to feel relaxed, and the trauma cycle started to complete themselves, my body started to feel relaxed. And that was a time when I started to sleep a crazy amount, just going to therapy and then come home and just knocked out. So it was a very interesting way how I got to where I'm at right now, is finding information online, that, okay, this is what I need. But it's really hard when we don't know where to go for information, because we don't know what's happening to us. Once we have little nuggets, we find a path. And that was my path, from Irene to one somatic therapist to the next one, who I ended up working with. And we've been working together for 3 years. And funny enough, that I started using her modalities in my training sessions with my clients, like automatically. And I found myself, oh my God, I'm using her method. And after that, I found trauma-informed personal training. So it's come to full circle. It's a beautiful circle, how I got into, going through my own trauma with fitness, and figuring out how to heal myself, and then finding trauma-informed training in the fitness space. And now I can help other people to heal from their own traumas. But I like to say that I'm not a therapist. I'm first and foremost a personal trainer who helps in a trauma-informed way. And I highly, highly recommend people who want to work with me, that they work with a counselor or a therapist who helps their mind as well. Because I work on the bodily level. I'm not a trained therapist, so I cannot hold space in that way. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's such an important partnership there, to be able to have your therapist that you work on uh, your what's going on inside your mind, and then have your personal trainer who is understanding of that process to be able to help you work on your physical side of things, and whether that's improving fitness goals or whether that's for healing those things that are already happening, it's an amazing partnership. So I love that. I think that we all need help. We need help and support in our lives for every aspect of our lives. And the person who helps us with our taxes is not the person who bakes our child's birthday cake, right? Is not the person who helps us with our teeth. And so being able to have that team of people around us is so important. And the fact that you are taking that trauma-informed approach really helps blend that team so that the team is understanding each other to work towards those holistic goals for the client. So I think it is awesome. Here at Heart and Solutions, we have I guess we haven't done it in a while, but our vice president in charge of the therapy department is a CrossFit trainer, and she's certified to do trauma-informed training as well. And so we have a therapy group that meets, and then it's partnered with a CrossFit class. And so you do the class, and then you do the therapy group, and then you do the class, and then you do the therapy group for that reflection and kind of bringing it all together. And what you're doing and the way that you're supporting people who are doing therapy is just beautiful. So I love it. I'm so glad that there are people like you out there. So what if you could give one suggestion to somebody on the fence about starting counseling, what suggestion might you give them?
Sit with the feelings first. Don't rush into it. Feel the emotions. Feel what's happening on the bodily level, and be honest with yourself that I'm fucking scared. I don't feel ready, or whatever they feel in the moment, and do your research. Don't jump into the first one just because that comes across. Take your time and look at it as an interview, that you want to find the right person, and it may take a couple before you find the one that really works for you. And it's okay. And I like to say every no brings you closer to your yes. And we shouldn't look at it as a failure when one, just like in relationship, like we don't have to, if it doesn't work out, it's okay. And it's going to help us because we get more answers by our no's. And eventually we'll find the right one. Yeah. So no rush. Take your time, do your research, and look at it as an interview. Yeah.
Wonderful suggestions. So if you're listening to this and you are interested in signing up for online personal training with a trauma-informed lens, go to the Trauma-Informed PT for personal trainer, the trauma-informed-pt.com to get connected with Gabi, or you can find her on Instagram by the same name at the Trauma-Informed PT.
I'm Gabi Varga. I need a counselor.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. Now, we want to hear from you. Text us or give us a call at 515-650-3231. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236. And if you're a provider seeking play therapy CEUs, you can find us on patreon.com/youneedatraining. We'll see you for the next episode, Sunday at 5.